Hi there, May 21st, 2020. I'm Drutter, and today is the 67th day of my lockdown diary. And before I get to the main title story, I want to talk a little bit about a different story. And here it is on CNN. It's a story about Venezuela, and if you don't know, Venezuela has been undergoing political and economic turmoil for, well, definitely for 3 years, but for a lot longer than that as well. But for the past 3 years, very dramatically. And people have been flocking out of Venezuela if they can. They are leaving on foot even if they have to. And the place is just in horrible turmoil, as the government services have been almost reduced to zero, even though taxes are still being collected, and the government manipulates the economy and price fixing, limits on food, all this kind of stuff, and it has taken its toll on the economy. It has completely collapsed their economy, and they're basically camping now. They're a nation of people camping in their previous former homes, just using them as a shelter basically, but there's no utilities, no services, and the place is overrun with health issues and crime, and it is just a disaster in Venezuela, and you don't hear about it very much, other than when the United States gets involved and says they're bringing democracy in, and they have a specific leader they have in mind that they're supporting, which wasn't necessarily supported by the people. It's a recipe that's been done all over the world. They've been bringing democracy and freedom to many countries, and I fear for the people of Venezuela if that's what ends up happening there. But what this story is about is Venezuela, about 2 years ago, sent out a message. You might have heard it at the time. They sent out a message to the Bank of England, where they have a large amount of gold bullion stored, and said, "Can we have our gold back, please? We're in trouble here. We need that gold." And the Bank of England said, "No, we don't trust you. We don't trust that you would spend it correctly. We don't know that you're the rightful leader." All this kind of stuff to the Maduro who requested it from England, and that was who deposited it too. So he deposited it with England, but he wasn't allowed to withdraw it for his country because they claimed that he was going to keep it for himself or spend it inappropriately or something. It doesn't make sense. That's what a bank does, is they give you your money back when you ask for it, supposedly. So that really doesn't, I don't know why anyone is using the Bank of England. And you'd think that people in Venezuela, South America, have a little bit of a history with the Bank of England and Europe in general taking their gold. That happened en masse for centuries, so you'd think that they'd be a little bit sensitive about that, but no, they're storing gold in England, and they were told 2 years ago they can't get it back. Now, CNN says today, they've said, well, fine then. If you won't give us the gold, at least give us the cash. Give us the cash value. It's gone up recently, right? Gold's at a high, so they're saying, why not? Liquidate it then, sell it, and give us the cash. Just pay us out. And now they're saying again, no, you can't even have the cash. And Venezuela is saying, we need this money for healthcare equipment, medicine, and basic food. That's what they're going to buy with it, supposedly anyway. That's what they're saying. And they're not being allowed to. Now, how is it the Bank of England's job to say to Venezuela, or the leader of Venezuela that's asking for this money back, who is it of them to say that they're not allowed to have that, and to determine that they aren't going to really spend it on what they say they're going to spend it on? That's not the purpose of a bank. A bank doesn't tell you what you can spend your money on. It's supposedly that way anyway. So this is really disturbing. Apparently it's about $1 billion now at current prices, and they're saying just give us the cash. Like it would even hurt the UK to print off another $1 billion. They're printing off trillions already from thin air. Why not just create another few more zeros and send them over to Venezuela so they can buy food? But no, they're cut off. They're not getting their money back, and they're not getting the cash value of their money back either. They're getting nothing. That's disturbing. And I think that's going to be more and more the case. Gold and even fiat currencies are going to be withheld from certain countries, and banking ties are going to be severed, and it's going to be a messy coming decade, I think, for the banking system. And it's too bad that Venezuela does not have their gold in hand, and it just brings up that whole, if you don't hold it, you don't own it thing. And that is true for everything. Everything, including Bitcoin. If you don't control your own keys, if you're keeping those Bitcoin on an exchange, it's not yours. If you're keeping your dollars or your euros or whatever's in a bank, it's not yours. If it's in a safety deposit box, it's not safe and it's not yours. Only if you have it in your hands, or if you're able to get it into your hands, quickly, say from your safe or something like that, then do you actually own it. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And Venezuela, I'm sorry, you're not holding it, so it's gone. Now I'd like to read an article from CBC, that's Canada's CNN, essentially, our mainstream media, our state media. It's what we're told to believe and what we're told to think and how we're told to feel. And today, the headline was Trudeau offering provinces help to scale up testing and contact tracking. And if you notice, I say the word tracking instead of tracing because that's what it is. It's about tracking. Tracing is more benign. It sounds like you're following afterward, like Sherlock Holmes with a magnifying glass. Tracking is a little bit different than that, as we will see in this article and in other articles. But Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said today the federal government is willing to help the provinces and territories increase their testing and contact tracking capabilities, two factors seen as vital to Canada's pandemic recovery. They don't cite how they know that these two factors are how Canada is going to overcome this pandemic. They haven't really established whether or not there is a need for the government to act in relation to this pandemic, but they certainly have been and are acting, and they have given themselves now the abilities and the rights to contact track us and to test us. Otherwise, the pandemic recovery apparently won't happen. That is what has to happen. Everyone has to be tracked and everyone has to be tested by the government. And it says, quote, "We have already seen significant ramp-ups of testing in places like Ontario and Quebec, where there's a need for even greater testing. Last week, with the premiers, I laid out that offer that the federal government could take it on," Trudeau said during his daily press conference. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said conversations continue with the premiers to develop COVID-19 testing as lockdowns ease and economies begin reopening. Quote, "We're going to talk precisely about how we can scale up testing immediately in places where it's necessary, like Ontario and Quebec, but be ready to scale up almost instantly in places where right now the virus is pretty well under control." They're talking specifically about BC there. "But any flare-ups need to be responded to extremely quickly." I'm not sure where they figured that out. Any flare-ups need to be responded to extremely quickly. Now, this hasn't even happened yet, but they're already telling us how they, what's going to happen and how they have to respond to it. The only way to respond to it is this, and they've already decided. They've already told us this. You have to go quickly and contact track people and test people if there's any flare-ups. That's what has to be done. We don't have any evidence that that's the case, but we're being told that that's what has to be done anyway. And it says the Prime Minister suggested Ottawa is willing to step up with financial support, but whose money is it anyway? Don't worry, provinces, you won't have to pay for it. The federal government will pay for it. But where does the federal government's money come from? It's from the people of Canada too. It's all our money. So pretending that it's not, oh, you don't have to pay for it, don't worry, it's free to you, it's free. No, it's not. None of it's free. It's all costing us. So, well, the federal government's willing to do so. Oh, well, of course they are. We wouldn't want to miss a chance at contact track and to blood test everybody in this country. Of course you wouldn't want to. Quote, "That is the frame that we're laying out. We don't want financial limitations to keep anywhere in this country held back from doing all of the testing that is necessary," he said. Okay, so money's of no concern now. Money's of no concern. There's hungry people in this country, but they can go hungry. But we got to test those people. We still have to test them. We got to make sure they're tested. Wow. Quote, "That is what the federal government will be there for." Premier Doug Ford, that's Ontario, expressed impatience again today with the province's performance on testing to date and promised to improve the system. "That's what I want, and I'm confident it's going to happen," he said during his daily briefing. "Believe me, it's frustrating." So they're saying, oh, we're trying. Don't worry, public, we're trying. We're going to get you tracked. We're going to get you traced. We're going to get you blood tested. We're going to get stuff shoved down your nose and sent to the lab. We're going to find out if you're COVID-19 positive or not. And we're going to make sure that everyone that knows you knows if you're positive or not. Don't worry, we're going to come into your lives and make sure that we know exactly where you've been and who you've been in contact with and who you've been within 30 meters of and what you bought. And we got to make sure, guys, we got to just keep you but don't worry, it's frustrating. I know we're trying as hard as we can to make it as soon as we can. Don't worry. No one's asking for it. Fuck you guys. Believe me, it's frustrating. We're not asking for contact tracking. We're not asking for to be mandatory testing or the mandatory vaccines that are probably coming next. We're all in this together, they say. You know what we're all in this together means? It's the same as when they said in 2001, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. Remember? That's exactly that same thing. They've just updated it for 20 years into the future now. We're calling it, we're all in this together. And variations of that are, everyone has to accept contact tracking, otherwise it doesn't work properly. Or everyone is going to have to accept a vaccine, or it doesn't work properly. That's the same thing as you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And that was to start the war over the past 20 years in the Middle East, which we've learned since then was a complete fraud. We knew all along, but now we've known for sure, it's come out in the mainstream media, that whole war in Afghanistan was a fraud. So we've been at war for a lie for 20 years, and now we're going to go to war again against invisible enemy again. It's not terrorism this time, it's the virus. And they've declared that if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists, basically, again. The president of the Canadian Medical Association, CMA, told a parliamentary committee on Wednesday that the country isn't prepared for a possible second wave. Possible, they say possible here, but in other parts the government is definitely saying that it is happening, it is coming. I think the headline today was, a second wave is inevitable. They said they've already got it predicted. They know what's happening, right? So anyway, they say they're not prepared for a second wave, and disappointing testing numbers could leave Canadians vulnerable. It's vague, scary, I guess. Quote, we're gambling by reopening, Dr. Buchman told the Senate's Social Affairs Committee Wednesday. Quote, we need the contact tracking and serological testing in order to make decisions about what to do next. Serological means blood. Testing in order to make decisions about what to do next. We're scrambling. In my opinion, we're not fully prepared for a second wave. Again, vague and scary again. So they need to test all Canadians' blood, and they need to track all Canadians with smart devices, right? Otherwise, it's not going to work. And we're scrambling. We're gambling by reopening, they say. Here comes the second wave. Oh my God. Canada's public health officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, said public health officials know testing levels need to increase ahead of a second wave. Quote, every level, as you've seen, at the highest levels of government, what the heck does that even mean? People are seized with the need to increase laboratory capacity and testing. So she's basically saying, yes, we need to test more people. We need to do more nose and blood tests, she said Thursday. Quote, the key is to be able to jump on any increase in cases, whatever jump on any increase in cases means, and do contact tracking really fast. Okay, I guess that's a very awkward way of her saying we are going to contact track, we are going to basically investigate and track and monitor everybody that has been known to be positive for this virus. And they say here contact tracking is the practice of tracking people. They actually use the word tracking. So they say contact tracing is the practice of tracking people. Why not just call it contact tracking then? Who may have come into contact with an infected person in order to get them tested and isolated. They say many countries, and the province of Alberta, that's the province next door to me, are using apps to do this work instead of relying on the work of human trackers, which can be a laborious process. Oh, so we don't have enough trackers to do all the tracking we want to do, guys, but you know what? We have smart devices. We're all using smart devices already, right? So we can just use them and we'll just install tracking software on them. Quebec's premier said his government is looking to partner with MILA, a Montreal Artificial Intelligence Research Institute, that has developed a mobile app to help curb the spread of COVID-19. What? An app that can curb the spread of a disease? Do they have an app to curb the spread of AIDS as well? And HIV? What about herpes? What about all these other viruses? What about the flu? Are they going to develop an app for all of these things? artificial intelligence mobile app to track COVID-19. So, in 2010, here on this channel and in my regular life, I said that government is and will be tracking everything that we do through our technology, smart devices, internet connections, and so forth. I said that every key we push on a phone, or a smart device, or a tablet, or whatever, pad, or a PC, every button we push, every mouse click, every keyboard button, every swipe, everything, every mouse movement, everything is tracked. I said that 10 years ago, and I was told, don't be paranoid. The government isn't spying on you. Well, they're not spying on you. They're spying maybe, but they're not spying on you. And they're definitely not spying on you through social media or your smartphone. So don't be paranoid, I was told. And then in 2015, I was told, don't be paranoid. Right? Again, government isn't spying on you, specifically. They're just spying on bad guys, terrorists, and certain activists, but not you. So you don't have anything to hide, do you? Don't be paranoid. Don't be paranoid. And then now in 2020, they're saying, don't be paranoid. The government needs to track everything that each of us does, and where we go and what we buy, and who we interact with, and who we've been near, and what we did, and it's for our safety. And we're all in this together. So don't be paranoid. But in 10 years, exactly what I said would happen is now happening. I was told that I was being crazy to suggest that 10 years ago. Now, they're still saying don't be paranoid about it, but they're just saying about something different. They always have the same response to me, and I've been right all along. But my critics always say, don't be paranoid. But I have been right all along. Why are they still now saying, oh, don't be paranoid? It's just for safety. It's not just for safety. This is their wet dream. They have been demanding this. They have been working toward this now for generations, for almost 100 years. As soon as computers became a thing in the early 1900s, we started to develop the earliest computers. Someone said, oh my God, you know what I'm going to use these computers for someday? Maybe not me, but people that I work with, people I believe in, my families, my descendants. Yes, those people, their descendants, their groups, their corporations, their families are still around. And those are the people that we call now the powers that be. And they're putting this into place all around us. And those of us who could see it coming have been called paranoid all along and are still being called paranoid. But we are still correct. This is what's happening. And 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago on this channel, I was saying that. And being called paranoid, and being told I was nuts, and being told don't be silly. Nobody's tracking anybody. It's all private. Your email's private. Remember that 10 years ago you sent an email? You thought it was private, didn't you? What about 20 years ago? What about in 2000? Were you doing Google searches? What were you searching on Google back then when you thought it was private? That is not private. All of that information was kept. It always was. Everything is always kept, and it will be tracked and attributed and associated to each of us. Everything we have ever done will be associated to each of us through technology eventually, if it's not already. They have AI working on it, and all it takes is 1 second for AI to go on the internet and know everything about you and to have calculated you from every possible angle that a human could never have done. And it's instantaneous, and it's going to be able to do that to all of us if it hasn't already. The more information that we put on here. Are you using a smart device? Are you even watching this with a smart device right now? What's your excuse? Really, what's your excuse? What are you doing? Why are you contributing to your own slavery? You know that's what it is. It's not a hyperbole. That's literal. You are being enslaved by that thing. You're not only being physically harmed by it just by being around it, but it's giving away your privacy, information to people and companies that will be kept for all time and used against you for all time, and judged from all different angles, by all different people, through history. You will be judged by what you are doing on that device. And you say, oh, I don't have anything to hide. Do you not have privacy? Really? You don't have privacy? Because if you don't have really anything to hide and you don't care about your privacy, then you'd be willing to bend over and take your pants down and show us up your ass, right? Because there could be a bomb in there. There could be a virus in there. There could be all kinds of things that, it's for our safety, right? It's for our safety for the government to have a quick look. Just make sure there's nothing dangerous in there, right? No, you believe in privacy too, don't you? You believe that you have some right to privacy. The government can't look up your ass for no apparent reason. Or can they? Some people would probably do it if they were told. That's what it's coming down to. The people on this planet, most people are willing slaves. They are going along with whatever happens now. And this contact tracking is just another part of it. They say, oh, it's going to take all of us, we're all in this together. Yes, they're trying to get a consensus. They're trying to get a majority of the population to do this, because then those of us who don't take the tracking software, or don't even have anything that can be tracked, like a smart device of any kind, like myself, those people will stick out as holes in the data, as gaps, essentially. We are able to be seen as a silhouette, almost, because everyone else's data surrounds us. So there will be no privacy for anyone. And there is no going back from this cashless society that will be instituted once everybody is made to be holding a smart device. They're even giving smart devices away to the homeless now, here in BC and all across Canada. They are making sure that everybody is going to be tracked. Everybody is going to be tracked with everything they do. And once that gets going, it won't be right away, they won't announce it right away, but once that gets going and we get used to that, they'll say anyone who's not using that system is a criminal, is a terrorist, right? It won't be you won't be allowed to say privacy anymore. That will be gone. The excuse of privacy is almost gone now, and it will be gone soon, and they're going to say everyone has to be completely exposed in every possible way at all possible times, otherwise the rest of us are unsafe. That's where this is going. That's not paranoid. That's the truth. And in 10 years, I don't want to be quoting this video. I want I want the world to go to a different place than this is actually going now. And that's why I do these videos, because just because I can see where things are going, it doesn't mean that I agree with it. It doesn't mean that I want it to go that way. I am trying to change things, and awareness is the first part of that. So please, I hope that you can see where this is going, and that it was not paranoid 10 years ago to say the government is or soon will be tracking everything and every button we push. That was true. That wasn't paranoid. It was correct. Maybe it was paranoid, but it was paranoid for a good reason. It wasn't inappropriately paranoid is the point. And I don't think we are being inappropriately paranoid now when we say a cashless society where everyone is tracked in everything they do by a centralized government system is going to be a nightmare for liberty. Period. Also from Dr. Tam, now Canadians should wear masks, and they're saying they may actually make it mandatory for all people in public to be wearing a face covering. And they say it specifically is about non-medical face covering, so any kind of cloth or any kind of fabric that you can fasten over your face, your mouth and your nose is sufficient, they say, but it has to be separate from your shirt or jacket. You can't just pull something up over your face. It has to be a separate mask, a separate piece of cloth. Now, an additional article of clothing, essentially, for anyone out in public will now be hijabbed, essentially, here in Canada. They are thinking about making it mandatory, but now she's saying the wording is gone to a strict recommendation, a very strong, strict recommendation from sort of more of a loose. Actually, she started off saying masks were a bad idea. A couple of months ago, she was saying, do not wear masks, especially don't wear masks in public. It doesn't help. Actually, you're spreading the illness. Now, then she was saying, well, maybe you should wear a mask. Depends. Sometimes, maybe you should sometimes wear a mask. And now she's saying, actually, you must wear a mask. Anyone who's not wearing a mask is spreading the virus. So it has gone exactly a 180 in about 2 months. And I reported on that. At the beginning of this, I reported on when she did that first flip from definitely not to maybe. And now she has made, now on day 67, the complete flip over to yes. In fact, it is going to be mandatory perhaps soon. Wow. Stay well.